Hi friends, thank you for tuning in to the Concussion Coach podcast. I'm Bethany Lewis, the Concussion Coach. I'm a neurological occupational therapist and certified life coach, and I specialize in guiding people through their concussion recovery journey. I am passionate about helping people understand their injury, speed up their recovery, and reclaim control over their life post-concussion. The purpose of this podcast is to help increase awareness of concussions and the impact they can have on a person's life, and to bring hope to people who have suffered a concussion and those who love them. I firmly believe that sharing stories and knowledge about concussions will bring important light and understanding to this misunderstood and often invisible injury. The information in this podcast is meant to bring that awareness and hope and is not meant as medical advice. The opinions shared are those of the interviewees and my own. If you are suffering with lingering concussion symptoms, I have created a concussion coaching program specifically for you. I will be your mentor to guide you through your recovery journey, offering help with understanding and managing your symptoms, setting achievable goals, and learning how to manage your own thoughts and nervous system in order to get control over your life again. If this program sounds like something that would help you or someone you love, sign up for a free consultation. In the consultation, you'll get valuable information and resources and gain hope for your future. Sign up for your free consultation at the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Hi friends, welcome back to the Concussion Coach podcast. Today I am doing a solo episode and I'm excited to share with you some of the things that I've learned and experienced around the topic of mindfulness. Now, sometimes when people hear the word mindfulness, they think it's really boring or really woo-woo and aren't interested or are kind of skeptical. And I'm hoping that anyone with the tendency to think that way will feel more open-minded to this practice after listening to this episode. I feel very passionate about this topic and I'm very excited to share with you some of the reasons why. I've just seen a lot of benefit in my own life and in the lives of my patients and clients and others who practice mindfulness. And it's gaining a lot of traction. I mean, just in the past few years, it's become all the rage. So I think it's a really good topic to discuss, and especially for people who've had concussions. So listen up, whether you've had a concussion or not, this topic will be very applicable, and this practice is helpful for everyone, no matter what they're experiencing or what they've gone through. But I'm going to start off by giving you a brief definition of what mindfulness is. Then I will share with you why it is worth your time to do it. And then we'll talk about ways that you can practice it and resources that are available. So let's dive in here. So what is mindfulness? Basically, mindfulness is being present in the moment without judgment. Sounds very simple. It's very basic, right? Like the overarching purpose and point of mindfulness is to be here and now in the present moment and kind of accepting what is, again, without judgment. And it's a lot harder to do than it is to say. So if we think about it, we spend a lot of our time and our mental effort and energies either in the past or in the future. I catch myself even, when I'm going to sit down to have a meal, if it's by myself, I'm like, oh, what can I do to be productive? I'm going to put my mind in other things that I need to get done in the future. Think about what happened in my conversation at lunch yesterday, right? Like we're constantly in the past or in the future. And so this idea of mindfulness is trying to ground us in the present. And why would we do this? What is the point? It is so good for our brain and our nervous system to do this. Mindfulness will help with emotional regulation. It will help with nervous system destimulation. It will help with focus and attention and memory. It's crazy how many different parts of the brain and body system are benefited by practicing mindfulness on a regular basis. And again, those things will benefit everybody, but they are particularly helpful with people who've had a concussion when their emotional regulation is out of whack, when their nervous system is very dysregulated, when they have particular troubles with focus and attention and memory. This practice of mindfulness is very, very helpful for people who've had a concussion. And almost always when I see patients, in their list of concerns, concentration and attention is one of those things that is so difficult. And if you think about it, if you're practicing mindfulness, the point of that is, again, to notice when your mind is wandering and bring it back to this present moment. As we do that, that is the act of concentration. It's pulling our mind away from the other things that it's going to and bringing it here and now. And so the more you practice that, the better you get at it. And studies have shown that even 10 minutes a day of practicing mindfulness can cause significant changes in the brain. So it is a really helpful practice. Again, it helps us to stay grounded when we're anxious or frustrated or we're finding our emotions going all over the place. If we can tune in to our inner selves and to this exact moment, we realize that things are okay. We're not in that stress response of the past that we're thinking about or the future thing that we're not sure about. We're just here and now, breathing, non-judgmental, and okay. Again, so much easier to say than to do, but that's why it's practice. And that's why we do it on a regular basis. Another point I like to make about mindfulness is that, as we are spending time being grounded, being in tune with our inner selves, the more we are in tune with that and aware of what's happening within us and in the moment, the more quickly we're able to recognize if something is starting to get out of balance or out of whack a little bit, right? And so if we're recognizing it earlier, then we are able to address it earlier and have a higher chance of being able to stay in control of ourselves or take control of our lives more. So again, this is a really important and helpful practice for everybody, especially for people who've had a brain injury. There's one more reason to do this that I feel strongly about and want to share with you guys, and that is that mindfulness can be a really good way to, and I kind of mentioned this before, but a really good way to destim. If you're having a lot of symptoms, if you've been working really hard, you've been doing things that are cognitively demanding and you need a break, mindfulness can be a very fast and efficient way to, again, ground in the moment, destim the nervous system, and help you get the rest that you need in order to continue on and be productive with the rest of your day. One of the things that I talk about a lot with people is pacing themselves, recognizing when they need to take a rest and when it's good to go ahead and push through. And this concept of rest is really important. You've probably heard me mention before how very, very vital allowing yourself to take rest breaks is, because it does actually increase your capacity to do things going forward. We don't want to push ourselves all the way to the limit and then crash and then push and crash and push and crash. We don't want to do that. We do want to push ourselves, but we want to find that just right challenge where we're pushing ourselves and then we're coming back and resting and allowing our brain and body to get back to homeostasis, and then we push again. So this is really important for people who've had a concussion and are dealing with this. But one thing that I like to point out to people is a lot of times people ask, like, what can I do to get better? What can I do to get better? And the emphasis is on the do, and rest is one of the things to do to get better, but it feels like not doing. So it's the thing that gets pushed aside, right? Like, no, I don't have time to rest. I don't have time to take a break. I don't have time for this. That's what we tend to think. And it's actually totally opposite. We actually need to do this so that we can have time to do the things that we want to do going forward. So I just like to throw that out there as well. Mindfulness is a really good form of rest, which is so important in our recovery process. So lots of good reasons, lots of good reasons to practice mindfulness. Now, how can we practice mindfulness? There are so many ways, and I'm just going to name a bunch of them. I was going to say a few, but it's actually going to be quite a few, because I want to give you guys a lot of opportunities and lot of ways. What I love to tell people is find the way that works for you, because some things will really resonate and be helpful for some people, and other people will find that to be the death of them. They don't want to do that for anything. So experiment, be open-minded, try different things, and just find what helps you to feel grounded and stay in the moment non-judgmentally. That is the point of mindfulness, is to be in the present moment. So one of the best ways to do this, or to at least to remind yourself of this, is if you have access to children, especially little children, and or pets, especially dogs, you have a great resource to remind yourself and help you to be mindful. So if you've ever noticed children, again, especially little ones, they're so very present. They're not worried at all about the past or the future. They are just here in this moment, having all the feelings and emotions of the moment, whether that's total distress because they didn't get the fruit snack that they wanted in that moment, or complete bliss because they are engaged in their play activity and completely ignoring the rest of the world. Like they are so good at just being here and now. And sometimes I like to, and I wish that it was more frequently, but occasionally when I remember to do this, I like to take a moment and be like, okay, I'm going to practice mindfulness. I'm going to be in this moment with my kiddos, and I'm going to learn from them because they're masters of it. And that can look like playing the game with them or just observing them. Like I'll be in this moment and it feels like good parenting as well. It's like a twofer here, a good win-win situation to like be with them, watch them, interact with them, and just really be present for them. I think that's good for the relationship, and it's, again, good for a mindfulness practice of being in this moment with these people that I love so much. I've taken notes from them. I went on a walk with my 3-year-old a few weeks ago, and we were walking, and then all of a sudden he stopped walking and bent over and was picking up the tiniest little pebbles that you could hardly even see, and was, looking at them, exploring them, like throwing them. And I was like, okay, I'm going to bend over with you here. We're going to look at these pebbles together, and we're going to be here in this moment. So kids are really good for this. Dogs are really good for this. You don't necessarily need to stop and smell everything that the dog is smelling, but that's what they do, right? They notice, they're involved and in tune with their senses and noticing the things around them. And we can take cues from that. So really good to take cues from kids and dogs. And speaking of senses, that is a fantastic way to tune into the present moment. If you think about it, your body can't be in the past or in the future. It is always right here in the present. And so as we tune into the moment and we tune into our bodies, then we automatically get tuned into this present moment. So that can be through breathing, noticing our breath, intentionally breathing in certain ways. There's so many ways to practice breath work that we could talk about another time, but noticing your breathing, noticing how you feel in this moment, going through the 5 senses. One of my favorite and quickest, I think, ways to practice mindfulness, it's just like an easy to remember way of practicing mindfulness, is to go through the 5 senses. And I think there's a lot of different ways that people do this, but even just noticing something that you can smell, something that you can taste, something that you can feel, something that you can hear, something that you can see. And when I do this, I like to start with my eyes closed, start with some breathing, and then I keep my eyes closed and do the visions part at the very end. I like to start with, what I can feel. So noticing the clothes on your body, noticing the floor or the chair supporting you, noticing how all of the little muscles around your eyes feel and just letting them relax. Like we're going in, we're feeling our body and relaxing it. And then noticing something that I can smell again, noticing something I can taste, noticing the sounds around me, trying to pick out as many sounds as I can hear, all with my eyes closed, all while breathing. And then I'll open my eyes and choose one object and just explore it with my eyes. Notice the texture, the shape, the color, the way the light and the shadows are playing on it. Just all of the things that you can about it. Just really explore it with your eyes. And just doing that, I just rushed through this, but if you take the time to really think about it and notice the things around you, it's amazing how quickly the whole system just calms down. I actually learned that practice from one of my patients that I had when I was an occupational therapist at a skilled nursing facility years ago. And it just really stood out to me because she told me she had a back injury. She broke her back. And she told me, which is very painful. And she told me that doing that 5 senses practice was one of the biggest ways that she got relief from her pain, which I thought was very significant and super interesting. So I wanted to practice it and try it. And I really do love that strategy for practicing mindfulness. Another way to practice mindfulness, I think there's a couple of like really good full body practices like yoga and Tai Chi. Both of those are there's so many different kinds of yoga. But if you do like a practice where you're either moving slowly or you're just holding positions, similar with Tai Chi, the whole point of those is to notice where your body is in space, be very controlled, very cognizant of your body and its positioning and how it feels. I like Yoga with Adriene on YouTube. If you don't want to go find a yoga class in the community, you can do it in the comfort of your own room. And there's, again, lots and lots of opportunities to find yoga everywhere. But if you're looking for one, I like Yoga with Adriene. She does a good job of keeping it mindful and has a lot of things for beginners and more advanced practitioners. So that is yoga and Tai Chi. Another way to practice mindfulness is through guided meditations or guided imagery. And one that I know that they use a lot at the clinic that I work at is called the Wheel of Awareness. And that's by Dr. Dan Siegel. And you can try it for free on his website. It's drdansiegel.com. And Siegel is Siegel. And if you look that up and look up Wheel of Awareness, it'll come up. There's different tracks you can listen to of different time frames. And that's a really good, again, way of being in the moment, noticing the things around you, noticing the things inside of you, and just a good way to practice mindfulness. But there's so many different guided meditations and guided imagery options out there. You can find them on YouTube, or there's a billion apps out there as well. Some that I like or have heard good things about is Headspace, and one that's called Calm, one that's called Breathe, and my personal favorite is one called Insight Timer. That's INSIGHT, Insight Timer. And all of those have good educational pieces, really good opportunities to listen to guided meditations or just have quiet music playing, reminders to breathe, things like that. So you can explore all of those and do a Google search for mindfulness practice on YouTube and you will find a billion things. So lots of opportunities to find those. We mentioned breathing before, but again, doing a specific breath work can be really helpful. One that is popular is called box breathing, and that's where you breathe in. So, and I like, just as a general principle, we want to be breathing in through our nose and out through our nose or our mouth, and we want to be breathing into our belly, like down deeper, diaphragmatic breathing, not up in our chest. So basic rules for healthy, calming breathing. So we want to be, for the box breathing, we breathe in through our nose for like 4 seconds, and then hold that for 4 seconds, and then breathe out through our nose or mouth for 4 seconds and hold for another 4 seconds. So we're breathing in, hold, out, hold. And that's, if you picture yourself doing a box as you're doing that, that can be helpful. So, but again, we can't breathe in the past or the future. We're only breathing now. So if we're tuning into our breath, we are tuning into the present moment. Another option, if all of that sounds like too much to do to try to take some time out of your day to do this, you can practice mindfulness in what you're already doing. Again, we're being mindful. We're noticing what's happening in and around us in this moment. And a great way to do that is with food. So I mentioned before, I don't think I'm the only one, but we tend to have a tendency to do almost anything else while we're eating than pay attention to the food, right? We're having conversations with people, we're studying, we're looking at things on YouTube, whatever we're doing, we're not usually paying a lot of attention to what we're actually putting in our bodies. And so if we wanted to have a mindful moment with our food, we can pause before we even put the food in our mouth. We look at it, we notice the shape, the color, the textures. We can think about where it was sourced from, like where did this come from, and just we're noticing the food before we even put it in our mouth. And then just take like one piece, one little bite, put it in your mouth, and before you even start chewing it, you could smell it before you put it in your mouth, and then you put it in your mouth and just like feel it. Again, notice the taste and the texture. Go ahead and start chewing it. Feel what that is like. Notice the crunch or the smoothness or whatever is happening with the food in your mouth, like being in that moment with that food. And again, so much harder and takes so much more concentration than you would think it would need to take. Harder to do than it seems, but being present in the moment with what we're doing is so important. And you can do that with eating. You can do that with walking. That's something that a lot of people who may not love the idea of doing other mindfulness practice can get behind. Being out in nature, going on a walk, going on a hike, noticing the bird sounds, feel the sun on your skin, the breeze blowing by, feel all of the things. Notice the ground beneath your feet as your feet are walking, feel how your body is moving. Just really, again, notice all the things. Be present in that moment with your senses, with your body in nature. That can be very grounding and a really good practice. And one that I like to throw out here as well, that again, people might be doing and not realizing can be a mindfulness practice, is any kind of prayer or meditation where we're focusing in, we're tuning in, we're being present, having a moment with divinity or whatever it is. That can be a way of practicing mindfulness as well. So hopefully, as you've been listening to all of these, something has resonated with you, something that you're like, oh yeah, I might be able to do that, or I could try to be more intentional about practicing mindfulness while I do this. And again, it is a practice and the consistency makes a difference. And if we can practice it when we're not in the moment of needing it, like when we're not having a hard time and wanting to help our bodies calm down, then we have gained the ability to do it, and then we have more access to it when we do need it. And I like to share this experience because one of the ways that I came to be such a believer in mindfulness practice and the power of the mind over the body was through hypnobirthing. And If you haven't heard of that before, it may sound really hippie and weird, but basically it's kind of like self-hypnosis, but it's just relaxation and breathing techniques to help with labor. And I wanted to try it with I've had 6 kiddos, and with my first one, I'd heard about this practice and I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. I want to try it, and I'll try to have a natural, unmedicated birth. And I got the book about it. I read it. It came with a CD with some scripts on it. I listened to that once or twice, and I was like, oh, I've got this. And then I went into labor and realized I did not have that. And I really, really wanted medication, and it was great. They gave me medication. It was wonderful. I love my baby, love that birth experience. But I was a little bit disappointed that I hadn't actually put in the work to get good at the hypnobirthing techniques and breathing and everything. And so with my next baby, I decided to take it more seriously. I took a class, drug my husband to it. He was very skeptical, but he's a believer now, I will tell you. After watching it work, it was pretty cool. I was like, yeah, see, I told you. So anyway, I went to a class. I listened to the CD on a regular basis, months ahead of time, and got really good at bringing my body and mind into a state of relaxation, and again, kind of into that present moment. So I would practice it. I would have really bad Charlie horses when I was pregnant, and I would sometimes remember to practice that breathing and that mindfulness in that moment, and visualize a zipper unzipping down my leg and releasing the muscles from that 10-step Charlie horse. And sometimes it would actually work. It was amazing and mind-blowing to me. I could feel the muscles just relaxing down my leg. And then sometimes it would zip right back up and I'd be screaming again, but sometimes it didn't. And it actually continued to relax my body. And so it was amazing. I got to practice it a lot ahead of time. And then when I went into labor, it was true, what they said, that there was pressure and not pain if I was able to focus on that relaxation and breathing. And I know that it was working because if I got distracted and was not able to focus on the breathing, it hurt like the dickens. But when I was able to, it was pressure and not pain. I will throw out there, very end of labor, still hurt like crazy. But the whole labor process up until the very end was amazing. It was amazing. And again, this is why my husband is a believer now, because he watched that happen, and he's watched it happen 5 more times after that first birth, when I did have an epidural, which again, I loved. And there's absolutely zero judgment for anybody's birth experience, whatever it is, however it looks is totally fine. But I just like to share this because it was such a proof to me that not only does our mind and our breathing and our intention about our bodies make a huge difference in our experience of pain and everything else, but the practice was key. The first time, that was the difference between the first and the second time. I mean, that was the main difference, I think. It was that I hadn't practiced the first time, and the second time I had done a lot of intentional work ahead of time, and so when I needed it, it was there for me, and I was able to call on it and use it. So sorry if that grosses you out, guys. Birth is maybe not the most comfortable of topics, but I it's very near and dear to my heart. I love my babies, and this was just such a very apt experience. I think it's very pertinent to this conversation, and again, the importance of consistent practice and what a difference it can make for our mind and our body. So hopefully I've convinced you to try mindfulness, to try doing it on a regular basis, even 10 minutes. And again, it doesn't even have to take a ton of time out of your day. It can help you be a better parent. It can help you be more present with the people you love. It's a really wonderful thing for us as humans. And so let's practice it. Let's work on it. A couple other resources. I think I mentioned the Yoga with Adriene on YouTube, the drdansiegel.com/Wheel of Awareness. Dr. Dan Siegel also has a book called Mindsight that's really helpful and explains a lot of these concepts. There are tons of TED Talks. If you go onto YouTube and type in TED Talk mindfulness, you'll have a whole bunch of options of wonderful things you can watch. One that doesn't always come up right away that I do like is called Can We Create a New Reality with an Awareness of Our Two Minds? Really long title, but if you put in TED Talk Lee Smith, Lee Smith, it'll come up. So you can do more research on it there. Again, there's lots of apps. You can just do a Google search. There's so much information about mindfulness. If you wanted to do a deep dive, you could dive deeply and for a very long time. So lots of resources out there. Feel free to reach out to me. I as you can tell, love talking about mindfulness, love thinking about mindfulness, and love trying to remind myself to practice mindfulness. It is just a more grounded and happy state to be in. Oh, and one more really, really important thing. Sorry, I'm throwing this in at the very end, but one aspect of mindfulness that I think can be particularly powerful is gratitude. Being mindful of the things that are good in our lives, that we can be grateful for, that are positive. Again, it's a directing of the mind and being in control of the mind to notice and be grateful in the moment. And a really good way to kind of hack your brain into finding what that might be is to ask it a question. When we ask our brains questions, we direct them intentionally. And so ask yourself, what is there to be grateful for in this moment? And I think you might be surprised at how many things you can come up with. So there you have it, guys. Mindfulness. It's a really good thing. Practice it. Let me know how it goes. Ask me any questions. I would love to chat with you about it. And until next time, have a great day. I'm so glad you listened in today. I hope you have gained some helpful insights and inspiration regarding dealing with and recovering from concussions. My goal is to create more awareness and education about concussions and the fact that there is so much that can be done to improve life after someone has had one. Help me spread the message by liking, commenting, rating, and subscribing to this podcast, and share it with others who would benefit from hearing it. There are more resources available on my website. And again, if you or someone you love would benefit from concussion coaching, sign up for a free consultation using the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Thank you. See you next time, and take good care of that amazing brain of yours.